As Australia comes through the worst wave since the start of the pandemic, it's fast becoming clear the future of the Aussie CBD might be one of the long-term casualties. Before COVID, the office commute was the norm. Just 5% of us regularly worked from home. CBD office occupancy rates were around 94% in Melbourne and Sydney, 86% in Adelaide and 87% in Brisbane.
We assumed that the CBD would always be that dominant location and space. But now that the pandemic has arrived, I think our position has completely changed on that.
More than 500,000 people in both Sydney and Melbourne worked within a 3K radius of the CBD, generating hundreds of billions of dollars for the city's economies. But despite a huge push to get workers back into the CBD since late last year,
we know that all of our city traders really need a boost.
New research released today shows CBD occupancy went backwards in July as the peak of the third Omicron wave hit, dropping to 38% in Melbourne, 52% in Sydney, 64% in Adelaide and 53% in Brisbane. Canberra and Perth are the only capital cities to record occupancy growth.
Clearly, there's going to be some people who will have health concerns and will want to stay away from crowded places. But I think the major factor really is that people have, over the last 2.5 years, become acclimatised to working from home.
Paul reckons people just want to live, shop, eat and work within their suburban precincts.
As a consequence of people not going into work in the CBD, people are obviously staying at home. So we're seeing what I call suburban stickiness, and that's where people consume local services, retail and other facilities in and near their homes.
And that spells trouble for the entire model CBDs are built upon, a central hub where we're expected to work, play and, most importantly, spend.
Simon Kuestenmacher is a demographer with the Demographics Group and joins us now. Simon, let's get straight to the point. Can CBDs ever get back to where they were pre-pandemic?
They can and they will. The only problem is that it will take quite a lot of time because the working from home movement is here to stay. And sooner or later, though, as our capital cities, particularly Melbourne and Sydney, grow at 100,000 people per year, eventually the CBDs fill up. But it's easy for me to say this because I don't have billions of dollars invested into office towers.
So I'm sure there people will be watching thinking, I mean, if people aren't going into the city as much but are spending money in their suburb instead, why is that a bad thing?
Oh, it's not a bad thing for the business owners of suburbia. It is a problem for all those big fat venues that are clustered in our city centres. Usually people went to the theatre, to the cinema, to the clubs after work. There was quite a bit of culture of coupling those events, you know, while the people are in the city anyways. And now those folks have to earn the commute. They have to earn the trip. It's much easier to fall onto the couch while you're at home and then open up a bottle of wine, open the Uber Eats app and get your evening done that way rather than commuting into the CBD.
So Simon, if you were an investor in one of these office towers and you were looking to the future of the CBDs, would you think about repurposing some of these empty office buildings into residential maybe?
For most towers, that's apparently not feasible. As far as I understand, the repurposing of an office tower into a residential tower is freakishly expensive. And since we will need those office towers as office towers sooner or later, it is actually quite feasible to keep them as office towers, but probably revamp them to a new purpose kind of offices that are more collaborative in nature.
Well, different cities are in different situations, right? They're different sizes, they've had different COVID experiences, they're at different levels of occupancy. Is there a city in Australia that, at least in the short to medium term, you fear for more than others?
It's definitely the CBD of Melbourne that has it harder because we ran this collective social experiment of taking people into different lockdown experiences. And so the good people of Melbourne got to work from home for a longer period of time. That means this habit of working from home sticks just a bit more in Melbourne than it does in Sydney or Brisbane or Perth. And that will continue into the future.
By the way, I love your business name. You're a demographer from the Demographics Group. I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It's excellent. Simon, how long was the meeting to come up with that name?
It took us weeks.
Thanks, Simon, for your time.
It's been a pleasure.
And Julie, it's great to have you here, just generally, but especially for this, because you know hospitality is right at the heart of this. And I'm sort of wondering, the places that are doing, lunches for office workers, they'll be in trouble. Yeah. But could they become dinner places, for example, where the nightlife, which is still kind of going, could be something they could profit from? It's
not as simple as that. So if you've got a cafe that services office buildings and they are opening early in the morning, doing the coffees, doing the lunchtime trade, and they've all of a sudden got no customers in the daytime, to turn that venue into a nighttime restaurant, they're two very, very different operations. So they're the people who are really going to be suffering with the empty offices, is these little businesses that have set themselves up purely to service daytime trade and office workers.
What's different about them, though? Like, why is it such a hard pivot?
Well, if you're going to a restaurant, for example, it's all different kitchen equipment. It's different kind of food. It's, they're sitting there with a $20,000 coffee machine on the front counter, which is where they make all their money. They may not be licensed, and you can't make money in a restaurant without a licence. There's a lot going on there. To say just pivot is a really, really simplified thing to say
to do that again.
Well, it's willpower, it's money, it's the skills of your workers. A barista has a different skill set to a sommelier. It's not a simple transition.
And when was the last time you had a chicken and sun-dried tomato focaccia for dinner? Probably not.
You're actually asking the wrong guy, mate.
Yeah, one tonight.
That is my favourite dinner.
Sorry, mine's a chicken wrap.